Hello Year 11 and welcome to the next video here, Exercise 1H, Simultaneous Equations, Harder Examples. Okay, so we've got some interesting things to do here. We will use simultaneous equations as a skill to do lots of other things, right? Particularly when we look at graphs and functions and these sorts of stuff, because we are interested in, right, well, we might have, if I have an equation with more than one variable, that it will be a relation, maybe even a function. And if I have two of those with the same variable, but, maybe a different relation, when I solve them simultaneously, it tells me where those graphs intersect. Okay, and that can be a very helpful thing. So we have looked, at plenty of simultaneous equations, systems of two variables. Let's have a look here at some with three variables, and I want to look at a slightly unusual technique here, perhaps. Slightly unorthodox way of doing 8D. Now, I'm going to have to rewrite some of this stuff. 8D. We have P plus Q plus R equals 6, and I'm going to call that number 1. And 2P minus Q plus R equals 1. I'm going to call that number 2. And P plus Q minus 2R equals negative 9. I'm going to call that number 3. So I've got these systems here. Now I'm actually going to do something a little funny with equations 1 and 2. I'm going to consider 1. Consider number 1 here. And I'm going to rewrite that as, quite simply, P plus Q equals 6 minus R. Okay, I'm going to take the R away from both sides and I get P plus Q equals 6 minus R. I'm going to call that 1A. Now I'm going to look at 3. I'm going to use something a bit like substitution to solve this. And I'm going to say that P plus Q equals minus 9, or negative 9, plus 2R. I'm going to call that 3A. And you see what we've done? P plus Q is the subject of equation 1. Neither P nor Q. P plus Q. This is going to get us through to R very quickly, right? We're going to be able to wipe out one of these variables very quickly, and this will speed the whole process up. So now I can say that 6 minus R equals minus 9 plus 2R. Very quickly, I'm going to solve one of these equations. So I'm going to say 1A into 3A. We could have done this by subtracting one of these straight away, but I kind of like this substitution thing, and I want to look at substituting not necessarily just a single variable. It might be a variable with pronumeral. It might even be some sort of an expression. So I know that minus 9 plus 2R equals 6 minus R. Therefore, right, add an R to both sides, 3R. Right, add 9 to both sides equals 15. And R equals 5. Okay, R equals 5. That is pretty quick to get into this. Now I'm going to substitute that into, isn't this odd? But I am going to leave, now let's substitute this into 2. Sub R equals 5 into 1 and 2. Okay, so I have P plus Q plus 5 equals 6. This is now going to be 1B. And 2P minus Q plus 5 equals 1. That's going to be 2A. If I had substituted R into 1 and 3, I would end up going nowhere because of that sort of coincidence that they have that similarity of P plus Q terms. We're just going to end up with a statement that says something like 1 equals 1. That's not going to help us. So we need to get a bit more of a a bit more of a handle on these things. We've got these two things now. Best way to go from here, I like substitution, but I think if we add these two things together, I'm going to do 1b plus 2a. Okay, my q's are going to cancel out. I get 3p plus 10 equals 7. That means that 3p is negative 3, p negative 1. And let's sub this into, oops, I should sort of highlight that, p equals negative 1 into something like 1b. And I end up with negative 1 plus q plus 5 equals 6. Right, rearranging some things here. Add 1 to both sides and take 5 away from both sides and end up with q equals 2. Righto, and there's my solution. R equals 5, p is negative 1, q equals 2 by a slightly different method of substitution there. Well, we didn't substitute p or q, we substituted p plus q. Right, that's probably a faster way, maybe. I think a fast and less complicated way of doing some of the other ways of doing it. I think that's enough for this video. Certainly, if you enjoy these things and they are, challenging, interesting, there's a little bit of work there, but you get good answers that are easy to check without just looking at the back of the book. I would encourage you to look at more of them. Question 9, you've got some things here that are non-linear, so you will very possibly get more than one answer there. I would suggest when you do that, you might end up with either a quadratic or, well, it is a quadratic, difference of two squares. Be careful how you deal with those things, right? Be careful of those. And here you have some worded problems. Challenging, interesting, but I think there's enough of these challenge videos as it is. So, I'm going to move on to the next one. Check that out. Have a look at those other ones if you've got the time, and let me know if you've got something that's a bit interesting about them. Okay, see ya.